Welcome back for the second installment in this series on fundraising basics. In the previous video of this series, we looked at different forms of cash available to take your idea to market and looked at equity and debt as two forms of investment money available to startup. We also looked at different forms of equity and debt. In this video, we will look at some terms used in the contracts associated with the investments. These contracts, known as term sheets, signal the investor outlook on the startup. We will also look at what the terms mean and how they determine the returns each party makes at the time of exit. Meet Dia and Kabir. They were working in a lab for the past 2 years on a new technology. They incorporated a new company by investing $5,000 each into the company. Friends and family invested $50,000 in exchange for 1,000 ordinary shares over the next 3 months. After another 3 months, Angel 1 invested $100,000 in exchange for 1,000 ordinary shares with an anti-dilution clause below 5% equity. Around the first anniversary of the company, Angel 2 gave them $100,000 in exchange for interest-free convertible notes. These convertible notes will convert to equity at 20% discount to the next round share price under the same conditions as the new investment. Before we go forward, let's look at the concept of dilution. When Dia and Kabir started the company, they owned 100% of the company. When friends and family invested, their shares got reduced to 91%, but the assets of the company grew. Similarly, when Angel 1 invested, the shares of both founders and friends and family shrunk. This reduction of share of the company as new investors come in is called dilution. By specifying an anti-dilution clause, Angel 1 wants to ensure that his share of the equity always stays at or above 5% as new investments come into the company. 1 year later, a new investor, VC1, agreed to invest $1.5 million in fully participating preference shares at the pre-money value of $3 million. The new investor also asked the company to create an employee stock option pool of 10%. This new investment will also trigger the conversion of Angel 2's convertible notes. Now, there are two options to deal with convertible notes. Consider the notes as being included in the pre-money valuation, which is option 1, or consider it to be an equity investment alongside VC1, which is option 2. If we look at percentage ownership of VC1 after closing under option 1 and 2, they look like this. So obviously VC1 will choose option 1. Angel 2's equity is proportional to VC1's equity. So she also prefers option 1. Since option 2 gives current shareholders slightly higher equity, founders would prefer option 2. Similarly, friends and family also prefer option 2. Now, what about Angel 1 who had an anti-dilution clause? Let's look at Angel 1's equity under option 1 and 2 without anti-dilution. In both cases, his percentage ownership is going to be less than 5%. So, the anti-dilution clause will kick in and new shares need to be issued to Angel 1. Under option 1, he gets more shares than under option 2. So his preference will be for option 1. This is one demonstration of how clauses like anti-dilution from investors can misalign their interests with founders even when they own ordinary shares. We have been talking about percentage ownership, but how do we find that out given that we have different kinds of equity and different classes of shares? We also created an employee options pool. These options do not vest and translate to share ownership until certain conditions like minimum number of years of service, are met. This is where capitalization table or cap table comes in. The cap table is where your convertible notes, preference shares, options, ordinary shares and warrants are accounted for on a fully diluted basis into ordinary shares. Before we proceed further, a note on warrants. A holder of a warrant has the right to purchase equity in the company in the future at a predetermined price. Unlike options, these shares are not issued by the company till the warrant is exercised. Safe notes in the US that are very popular instruments for early stage investments are structured as warrants. Now, coming back to cap table, fully diluted basis means that all different instruments that are issued and have a potential claim over company's assets are converted to ordinary shares. So, on a fully diluted basis, the percentage ownership of, for example, of Dia and Kabir's company looks like this. But if we look at the current shares outstanding basis, the picture looks slightly different. Employee stock options which have been allocated haven't yet been issued. So there are no claimants to those shares yet. So they do not appear in the second picture. It is now one more year since they received the funding from VC1 and the company has issued some options to the employee. While the fully diluted percentage ownership looks the same as before, the picture looks slightly different on an outstanding basis because we need to consider the options that have been given to the employees. Now, let's say the company received an offer to buy for $10 million. How much will each party get? Which percentages will we use for calculating it? First off, there is no one making a claim for a return on the options that have not been allotted to any employee. So we don't need to consider those unallotted options. Similarly, anything that doesn't have a claimant doesn't need to be included in distributing the returns. So, percentage ownership according to outstanding shares becomes the basis for distribution of proceeds. We also know that not all claimants are equal. In our example, we have participating preference shareholders like VC1 and Angel 2 who have higher liquidation preferences than ordinary shareholders. A formal way to capture the disbursement of sale proceeds is called the waterfall analysis. Since preference shares have higher liquidation preference than ordinary shares, they get the initial investment and any coupon attached to the preference shares first. The balance is then distributed to ordinary shareholders like founders and others. Notice that Angel 2 and VC1 received proceeds from disbursements made to ordinary shareholders too. This is because these preference shares are participating. That is, they receive initial investment and any multiple of it that was agreed at the time of investment. They participate in the distribution of the balance as if they have equivalent number of ordinary shares. Now, let's look at how well the three investors did. The parameter used to calculate this is the investor multiple. You may have heard of 3x, 5x, etc. when investors talk about expected returns. Two things to observe from the multiples. Angel 1, who went for ordinary shares with anti-dilution, had the highest multiple. You will also notice that later round investors made lower multiples than earlier round investors. Now, instead of $10 million, let's say the technology didn't quite pan out and the company was sold only for $2 million. Here, the preference shareholders VC1 and Angel 2 did much better than the founders and rest of the ordinary shareholders. Let's look at the investor multiples again. Here, Angel 1 came off much worse than the other two, which makes sense given that debt is more conservative than equity. Angel 2, who invested in convertible debt, did much better than Angel 1, who invested in ordinary shares. If the company gets sold for anything less than $1.6 million, of course, none of the ordinary shareholders make any money out of the sale. Now let's compare the percentage ownership on an outstanding basis with the actual distribution of sales proceeds when the sale price is $10 million. While founders had 48% ownership, they received only 40% of the proceeds. The comparison looks much worse if we look at the distribution of sales proceeds when the sale price is $2 million. Whereas the ownership on the outstanding basis is 48%, the founders now ended up with only 5% of the proceeds. So pre-money valuation isn't everything. We need to also understand the impact of the terms such as liquidation preferences associated with the new money coming in. Putting it all together, here is the summary of the topics we discussed today. Thank you.